Hi, come back again. I just tried to finish up what I have done yesterday on the JSON object. We try to read in JSON file using Java and try to create a Java object from JSON file. So now let's come back to review. So this is a JSON file named family.json. So I have an array of JSON. So in the array, we use the square bracket here for the JSON, and this is a list of the family members, name and the date of birth. And I try to read in this JSON file using Java, and I create the class named children. And this class pretty much just has two attributes, name and date of birth, to create an object of children that's reading from family.json. So how do we do that? So first we start out, right, we're going to learn how to read JSON file with Java in the main. So I'm creating an array of object, right? So, and that object pretty much our second goal here, that we want to, after read, right, JSON object. So form an array of JSON that I just showed you on family.json. After read JSON object, we're going to create the Java object, right? Which is object from student, right? Class after read JSON object. Okay, so this is two things that we try to do. So that's first I create an array of children, array list, an array of object of children. So this is try to accomplish second goal. So the first goal, we create the JSON parser, right? An object of JSON parser from json.simple.parser. And I'm not going to use this parse exception. I delete that. I'm going to just do try and just do generic exception here. But if you want to use the parse exception, then you could do another catch here. About just specific exception to parse exception. Then we know there's a problem with JSON parser when the parser exception, though exception, parse exception. Alright, so if there's a problem, then it's gonna catch, and let this print out. It's been catch. And just leave a generic exception here. So when you do exception, you have to do specific exception before the generic exceptions. Alright, come back. Now we try to parse the file here, right, into the object. So, and now the whole object being read, technically the family.json object is, file is in the object. So we're going to cast that, because this is a JSON array with a square bracket. We know this is JSON array, so we casting as a JSON array here, and then we start to, I'm going to just print out to check, okay, if this one being read in. So we can start to see the first print line. So this whole JSON file family.json is being read into JSON array and print out. Looks good. So now we try to create an object, right? So we're done with goal number one. We can read JSON file with Java. So goal number two is just try to create Java object, right? So I already declared children as an array of object. So what we try to do, we're going to use the iterator part of the JSON array. So as a collections, we have iterator in Java that can iterate, right? A collection in Java. This is an interface that we can take each values we have has next, right, in from the JSON array, while the value is still there. Like we try to take one object at a time each set. So let's say I'm going to print out. Like there you can see we print out 3 times. It's looked through the object, but it looked through the JSON iterator, right? JSON array. Now we didn't create an object yet, so when I print out the children array is just empty. So now technically I just need to create an object. So it was if you do like, let's say if I do like this, I'm going to create an object like that. Okay, so iter.next.get name. So technically we know iter.next is going to return a JSON object, right? And then we're going to create object that way, right? Get name. Now there's a problem here. Doesn't look like it did create for us. There's a null. So we know that this has to return a JSON object. So I'm going to create a JSON object instead called JSON object. And then we're going to do this way instead, right? So we're going to say JSON object.get. Okay, so and then date of birth. And they are strings, so we cast them, okay, to string. Now let's try again. Just need to eliminate the errors. So voila, we get the object in. So we're able to create an object in Java, right, for each of the kid. All right, so now that's how it works. So the next thing I like to talk about is we talk about JSON, right? JSON can have, this is an object, right? JSON object. This is a JSON array. So what happens if let's create another. I'm going to refactor the name of this project a little bit. So this is JSON array, right? Reader. So now if I want to do JSON object reader, so let's create a new Java project and name JSON object reader. So technically, instead of making an array of object, so I technically going to create another JSON file here, an array of JSON object. We do a JSON object, right, instead. So let's create a new file here. So JSON from the JSON, so you can use the same name, and I'm going to modify this as an object instead, right? So this is an object. So an object of JSON. Now an object could have let's try to see. I'm going to have a dad, right? The name of the dad. Okay. And now that has an array of kids, right? So kids, it is an array of kids. Okay. So object should have key and values. So this is a key, that key is kids. And let's review JSON. Right, so this is a object, right? You can see this is a key and the values in the curly brace title. And let me review more. This is another one, menu. Inside that as an object ID value widget. Let me see more example, and I may bring up some interested example. So I say it's interested because maybe when you go to job interview, they ask for this type of example. Okay. And they have the program called here coder pad, and when you go to interview, they can just totally ask you to write a code here. The interviewer just look at how you respond to the question, and the question could ask you to write a program to read JSON. So let's see if job interview questions. There's question and answers, which you can totally go through it and prepare. Right, so let's say if I have JSON, I want to see if they have question related to JSON. Coder pad. There you go. Some of the JSON file here. So this is status ID, title, owner, email, language. This is a JSON file. Okay, so let's say this is a JSON, and another example, like you see this is an attribute like the key and value, status OK, ID, title, owner, email, language, and this is the list of participants, right? Participants pretty much just like this is an array. So if I want to read something like this, right, into Java, right, so how would you do? So let's come back to our codes. Like this is the JSON. I'm going to add the JSON, right? Let's name participant. Oh, I need to name it with a JSON.json, right? Participants.json. So we're going to create the JSON. Standard. Okay, so comma. So let's compare this a little bit to what we have before. Status, ID, comma. So this is missing comma. Right. Gets, right. Is it right? Yeah. ID, title, owner, email, language, participants. Okay. Right. Let's try to read this file first, or this file. Okay, can do both. So let's start coding. First, just focus on reading the JSON. Okay, this is a JSON object. All right. So we're going to put a main. Now inside the main JSON parser, name parser, new JSON parser. We probably need that. Make sure we need to import that. So we need to create a build path, add the external libraries, which is the JSON simple. It should have JSON Parser that we can import to use. Now we have the parser, import from the JSON library or sub.json library. So we need to create a try catch. We try to read the file. Okay. Parse exception. Exception. So I do the just simple print out error when there's an error. Print out the error message. Now we want to parser dot. We want to read which is parse new file reader, new font file, and the path to the participant. So that's the one that we want to do first. Now, if I do, I just try to see if I don't provide a definite path. Maybe come back, look at that later. It just depends on the location where you put your file. You may not have to do the absolute path like that. And import. This is from Java library, Java.io. Now we are able to read in. First, when we read it is an object. We're just going to call an object for now. So we pretty much just read the JSON file into this object now. The next step we want to do, we just want to create a JSON object. Right, we read in the whole object. Let's call JSON object equals to obj dot. We just want to cast it JSON object. Right, cast that to JSON object. And we gotta print out JSON object and see what we got. Let's try to see first. Okay, no. Looks like we didn't get anything. It's known as an empty object. So let's review how we read that again to see why is it null. So this is comparing new, try. So this one we do a JSON array. So this is a JSON object. So we're supposed to get the object. Let's say I want to print, right? Get status. All right, so say no. So let's check why is it doing that. So first, I will try to see if it requires to have the quotation, and I'm going to make this so small JSON first to see if we can just read this. Looks like we could. So I'm going to make sure we have a big screen to look at. So something wrong with the file that causing the problem. So when I don't have the double quote on the JSON key, that's the problem. So that means we didn't get appropriate JSON format. Okay, so this could take care. Now, meaning that we need to put the quotation for all of this. So this is a code. The problem with the JSON file itself is just not appropriate, so that's why we could read in. So now we just need to put the quotation for the key. These are all the key, and the value is after the colon. Alright, let's try again. Let's see if we can read it. Yep, so we are able to do that. Now let's see if I don't do the attribute. So you can do get to specify the attribute values. Alright, so we read in the whole JSON object here without the values. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just want to make sure we read everything. Okay. So that's how we are reading the JSON object. So once you get the object, now the next question is how are you going to create an object? All right. For Java object of the from JSON object here. So technically we need to create a class. So let's say this is the participant class, and I'm going to give the attributes pretty much the same here. Like status, ID, title, owner, email. So we're gonna make it as private and string. Status, ID, title, owner, email. So in Java we use the camel case. Language and participants. So it looks like it's an array of participants here. Now we're going to generate constructor, setter, and getter, and toString. So I have the constructor, let's just move it. And now we're going to generate the so if you want it to go underneath, you need to put a cursor like underneath it. Get the setters, and you can see I don't need to move it anymore. You put a cursor in right press and do go to source and generate. The last one is toString. Okay, so let's review. Because sometimes the generated code is not going to give you exact, like especially now we have an array. Get participants, that means return a whole array of string back. Set an array of string here. I'm going to leave it with that for now. May have to come back and fix this. So let's look at JSON object again. So for JSON object here, I need to, so after I read in, this is the JSON into JSON object, read in JSON object. I'm going to change this into Java object. So I'm going to instantiate the participant, right? Participants class, name participant, singular. Equals to new participant. So it's trying to call the constructor. I could create the default constructor for now. Okay. For this, I probably need to do setters because I have already created that, right? When I read in each of this, which I can do here. So we can look at participant and dot set. All right, set ID and what's ID? we just get from JSONObject.get ID, and this is a setter, but we have it as string. We have to cast that to string. After you reading is an object, so we need to cast it to string. And we are doing the same thing here for owner email or status. I'm going to do it in order, which I'm going to open this up. So status ID title owner email language participants. Now this is an array of JSON, so we have to deal with this differently. So we can create a JSON array. Could name it like participants. And we go say JSONObject, right? Dot get, and the attributes of it is participants. So tail is return object here, which we have to cast it to JSON array. Alright, so we have participants array, JSON array. The next thing is, let's just print out and see what we got so far. Wait, participants. Okay, so this is the one that we got. It's an array of JSON. So meaning that we could do the iterator equals to participants dot what we try to do iterator. Then this is a Java collection, so we import that to use dot has next, which is the loop to the list. Then we can start to create an array of, if you recall, we have an array of participants here, right? So I'm going to just declare that here, an array of participants string, and we have to create a size. So that's why we do this. We should have an array list, then we don't have to worry about the size here. Otherwise, we have to keep the size to it, which we could have an array list here. And then we can change it, where this can convert to an array. Then we don't have to change that on the participant class. Because array list is a class that will have the dynamic on the size. Size can change. because we will never know if we keep reading JSON, it's going to have 2 all the time or not. It could be more than 2 people participate. Now we can add the editor, right? Now the iterator, based on our experience last time, we may not really get it in, but let's try. We may need to create a variables name string again before we can add directly. Let's see. Oh, same name, JSON. Let's call it JSON participants. We need to initialize this equals to new array list. Okay, so it looks like it did create it, and this is the list that we read in and put it down. So then we can do setter after that. Oh, this should not be set ID, right? Status. Sometimes copy and paste will make an error, so just don't forget. Set inner email. Set language. And then we need to do the same. Participant dot. We want to do set participants. We want to set this to maybe singular. Looks like it's plural. So looking for an array of participants. Which this guy could have 2 array. This has to be a string. Doesn't look like it that way. An array of object. We just change this to object then. Alright, so let's run this. The next thing is we want to make sure we can run the object name participant and print out the values. Because we read in the JSON object and we convert to Java object right there. All right, so it works fine. Now, last thing we're going to try to do the same thing with family.json. Let's see if we change the it's gonna be easier. Just I'm gonna rename this and create a new file like this, and is called participant, right? JSON object reader, and create a new one, new class called family JSON object reader, and family should not be much different. So first we're going to create a parser, and this is called Json Parser. Equals to new JSON Parser, and we need to import this, and same, it has to be in the try capture statement. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to shorten the time a little bit by just copy, borrow the code, and I have to do iterator too. I'm going to borrow the code up to here. Okay. Now we have this try to read. Now the file name has to be different, right? So this is where I'm going to read it. It's going to be from parse right here, where we do parsers.parse, and this is where we want to parse. And in Java, we just need to do / instead of \. If I can do find replace all, but done anyway. Be reading as an object, and this object that we read in, it is tably cast to JSON object. And now from JSON object, what do we get? We get the JSON, which the whole file in there. After we get a JSON, then we can just tell we do set, right, setter to get the attributes, which I can just try to drag that down. Then I know what are the attribute names. So the first one is what? That. And this is going to go to the children or I can create another. Right, let's do that. I'm going to copy the student class because we can have an array of student object here too to use. And now we have to create a new class name family, which going to have an attribute dad and kids, which is this could be string dad, right? Which is a private, and then we can do the same with the private string kids. No, it's not string because we got to show them. Right, we follow the class to use. Now we can directly generate the constructor, and we can generate the certain getters. And we can generate the toString. Alright, set kits. So then we just let's see, should we have student? Should be an array of student here. So that's one mistake here, which let's create a type family can have list of kids, right? Array list of children. I need to recreate the constructor. We know because we have more kids, so that's why we need array list. Array. This time I'm going to use array list. Because we will never know how many kids it's going to be, so that's why. Now this just need to return rates of shooting. Set. Okay, this should take care of. Then we come back here, we get this. We create an object of family equals to new family. Let me just do the empty constructor. Now we can start to do setter right here. Family dot set that on the JSON reader. So we're changing into Java object at this point. So this one reading as object with cast to string. So and then we're gonna do the same with kids. But for the kids, we need to do the iterator. So we copy this for now. The iterator, we need to read in, right? So this is in JSON array. because as the kids are an array of JSON. We will call JSON kids equals to, let's just name this and we can refactor to be faster because I follow the code. We name participant for now and refactor the name later. Equals to be JSON object dot get kids. So this should return the JSON array. We cast that back to JSON array. Import this. Now JSON participants, right? That I have to refactor. I'll shift R. We will call kids. Yes. And we're going to iterate to it. So this is going to be family. Right? Let's think about. We're going to do an array of kids, right? So I need to create an array of kids here. Array list, which is type of children, and name. Let's just name like participants for now. I will refactor it later. Equals to new array list. We need to import array list. Alrighty, so participants. We participant. Okay. Now just refactor. I'm going to name it kids. Array of kids. Now we add it's the children type. Let's see, this is going to be a JSON object, right? When you read in. So let's create a JSON object call kid. Each kid is an object. At a time, we read in dot next. One kid at a time. Now the kid itself is the JSON object cast back. So we have kid that need to create a children. So I need to have a children child. This is pretty much just create an object of children. Right, so the child maybe I set the name of the kid and set the OB of the kid. Now the name of the kid is coming from kid.get name. Save set DOP. Actually, if I create a child here, yes. Let's do it, yeah, set DOP and then kid.get DOP. Okay. Now the child cells need to be instantiated, right? In that case, I need to create an empty constructor. that's one way. Or you can directly just call the added constructor without using setters. Now this one need to cast it to string. Let's see, set DOB2. Okay. Now we have the child. Then we need to add the child to the kids. Then if we do it and make sure all the kids have been done. After that, we need to add the kids back to we call family.setKid. Right, set kids. Now we can set the kids. We already have them under kids. And that's it. Now we can print out the family and see if we're able to read in the whole JSON, family of JSON object and change it into Java. Okay, looks like it's not completely working. So let's trace back the code. So now to trace back, we can use debugger if we want. So let's look at what's wrong. I need to set a breakpoint. So I'm going to set right around here. As our application. Okay. I want to see why it's not debugging for me. Let me switch to debug field. Let me set breakpoint right here. And let's run the, looks like need to launch. That's why. Okay. All right, so let's just watch the values to see if it's working okay. Like JSON object, this is the one that I want to make sure it's actually reading. This is another way besides using system.out. You can use the debugger to assist you step over. Okay, so I'm gonna do step over. Okay, there's a problem reading. So it's still an error, right? That's the reason why. I mean, it's to exception. But let's try to get into JSON object. We couldn't do that. So maybe something not right on the family.json. Just verify the file a little bit. Okay, this is an array. Kids. Let me see if I do print E. Will print anything for us? It looks like that get message doesn't print anything for us. Okay, unexpected character had the position 0. So let's verify the file path. So I'm going to verify if the file is existing in that location too. It looks like it shouldn't. It should, right? Right there. So the path name looks fine. Alright, so maybe the JSON itself is the problem. So does this look like a JSON? So we have this JSON object. Let me try to narrow down the problem. So I'm going to comment everything out and run that just to see if we're able to read in. Same problem right here. This is the problem. Let's see if it's, I think the parse is the problem. Right, this line is a problem. Couldn't parse. So parser is the same, but looks like JSON file is the problem here. Like if I might modify the file with it to narrow down what's wrong with this file here. position 0. Interesting, it's still giving me problem. Let me just narrow down everything. So it looks like that file is a problem. JSONObject. Let me switching the file again. Participant. Because it looks like this family of JSON is having an issue. Oh, it's not only that. So it was working fine. Let me just undo this thing first. So let me test with the participant JSON again. So when I run this, it was working okay. And this is a file participants. Right, so let me just copy. Oh, here. I didn't use your new file either because I'm reading from the file. So that is why. Okay, so let's rerun this application. Okay, no further exception. Now we can start the debugger again. Let's just relaunch. Put the should break at this point. Let's relaunch. No part exception. So let me put the comments on this to see where it's coming from. This is relaunch. Okay, so it looks fine here. I'm going to watch this object. Put a toggle point to make sure we can read it. Relaunch. Now I want to see what in the JSON object. Here's a debugger. Now it's not hitting that point yet. We need the whole JSON object. Watch. Right. So technically it's not spelling wrong, so I'm going to delete that. Okay. So let's see, we step over. So there's an error right here. We never get to read back in. Oh, I have to change this back to family. That's could be the issue earlier why we get no part exception, because we refer to something that's not there. Okay, so let's uncomment this out and just rerun this application again. Voila, we get everything straight out. All right, I think it's just about some overlooking that could cause a problem because I thought forgetting to put the file reader, and now just the name here, right? I changed and I forgot that I need to change it back. All right, so thanks for watching, and I hope I can deliver something that's more useful for you next time. Thank you. If you like it, thumb up, follow me,